just be fully of questions so that we can have an idea about various forms of table story. Now here what I have seen is, we are speaking about 2 or 3 kinds of table story. My table story is a mental table journey, story of a mental table journey. And I find Mr. Neil, he is, what would I say, he is a 24 into 365 travel story writer. That means he travels mentally also, but then fictive. I should call his travel stories fictive story. And because I have not read them, I do not know how they will be different from the travel story like Gulliver's Travels or Robinson's. These have been more important travel stories than real travel stories. Maybe Neil's are also like that. But then what about the husband going with the wife for travel? Conjugal kind of travel story, should I call them? Conjugal kind of travel story. So I also went, all along my wife was there, but I forgot her. I was absorbed in my mind. And that's why I say all travel stories, if they are good travel stories at all, can only be impressionistic travel stories. These are always impressionistic. It is your impression. You can never give the fact. You are not a Goan. Can you give a real picture of Goa by being there for some time? So it will be only your impression of Goa. As you have rightly said, you spoke about impression here. Not exactly, but then passage to India. I was all along thinking about passage to India. It is a novel. It is a novel. But then it is an impression about India, and a very right and very good kind of impression about India. You read many travel stories about India, and you read a passage to India. You see that you have seen India at a particular time, and yet you have seen India eternally. That is what, a good travel story is always impressionistic. You do not go to learn from travel story. You actually want to be at one with the writer who has seen all those places and read travel stories for them. Now, it is a kind of door, I should say, it is a door of literature about which there is no theory at all. I have not come across any book of theory on travel stories or travelogue. I read theories more about theories of novel, theories of short stories, even theories of feminism. But then about travel story, I am puzzled. So I have to make my own theory about what a travel story is, what is its purpose, why is it necessary and all that. And as I said in my beginning, there cannot be, what I should say, a fixed story of, or a fixed theory of any kind of literature. It goes on changing. And without being a theory for travel literature, the theory, non-existent theory, is also all the while changing and changing. And in today's world, I have seen that at this moment, we can write only fictive travel stories, as Mr. Dill said. Or we can write only travel stories mentally. Because actual places you have all seen through internet, even not with your own eyes. But still, there will be a thirst for travel story all the time. Because like practical classes, in science, when you go to science classes, you read the theory first and then you want your practical laboratory. It is like that. We know the world. We have seen the world mentally or through internet. But then we want to have some taste of it practically. That is where the importance of travel story lies. And that way, it will be always eternal. Human mind, so long as it is there will be importance of travel story.
You remind me of you remind me of this quote that talks about the journey outside is only worth the journey within, when you travel. Yeah.
Just a quick answer to yours. I actually now find travel writing fun because what I've been doing in the last few years is really writing autobiographical, analytical, political stuff. But on that, whenever I get very bored with writing political analysis, which my life has been for some time, I write about my travels. And it's such a relaxation because the memories come back. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I actually do a small Facebook post. So it needs to be expanded. And that's just so much more relaxing than sitting and worrying about, educational problems in Sri Lanka or political difficulties. So for me, travel is actually relaxation. Any more questions?
Travel is not relaxation, travel is one sort of relaxation.
Right.
So, I'm of the understanding that Devapura is the only one who was like co-authored a travel book. So, very curious. Often when we see things, two people could be seeing the same thing and might take away something totally different. Like, we could be looking at the same sunset and I'd be like, oh my god, this is gorgeous. And my husband could be, are you crazy? Like, this is nothing. So how did you deal with it? Because very different perspectives. So how do you come to an agreement about what to put in?
So we actually, worried quite a bit about what the structure of the book would be. So it's actually two voices, So it's written in two distinct voices. So we decided, in the interest of, not making it too complex, to keep the linear sort of structure going. So it was like, say, day 1 to day 100. But so we each had our very distinct voices, right? So he wrote two perspectives, yeah. So there's this one big fight in the book, which is also sort of, structurally somewhere in the middle. Because you see, you also reveal a lot about yourself in a travel book, right? So it ends somewhere and then it begins. So somebody told us, this entire section you should have written about from both perspectives instead of, so that we heard the fight from both sides.
As an answer to your question, I want to say, look at the Taj Mahal. Okay? So it's called a teardrop on the face of time and all the most beautiful things. But Khrushchev, of Russia, went there and he wrote in the visitor's book, which you perhaps have heard, that this is the mockery of a poor man's love. Is it true that a rickshawala doesn't love his wife? He can love how much more than Mumtaz Mahal and Shah Jahan. So the two perspectives can be diametrically opposite, but they are very interesting.
So I was talking about theories of travel. There you go. This is the Marxist interpretation.
But it's very human also. A poor man, what can he give to his wife who he loves?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's actually really beautiful. I was thinking the Buddha saying, with our thoughts we create the world, right? And that thing of two different perspectives and nothing really being real, really. So that's interesting, getting a complete picture almost a complete picture through two people's perspectives. I think it's a very clever literary device. I've got to read it now.
The question of structure, you see. Now, this is very important, but then I don't know how to deal with structure when writing a travel story. If you don't write it instantly, if you write it after a few years, then perhaps there will be a better structure and that will be a perfect one. But if you go on writing just as you go on traveling, there can only be the obvious chronological incidents and there cannot be any structure. But even then, as I say, if you can give an impression of your own, impression of your own about all the things that you have seen, and if the impression has a sort of unity of impression, then some sort of a structure will come. Otherwise, travel stories cannot be hotly instant.
Just to add to that, if you write it immediately, you might also fill it with too many details. Because you'll remember too many things. I think sometimes it helps to let some time go and you forget a few and you remember the more important things. What you say?
I think structure is a really important thing, and I think you're right, giving time. Like this book, because I only write part-time, took me 9 years to write, okay, from conception to publication. And it went through a lot of structural change. I was talking to Pierre before, I was writing, and actually I'm going to discuss this a little bit in my session tomorrow, outside of my culture when I was talking about the young Afghan boy. And I first wrote it in the first person, present tense. It's a very, like the opening scene, I don't want to give too much away, but it's quite full on. And so about 3 or 4 years in, I actually had to do a complete rewrite, and I wrote it in the third person and in past tense. And it's so much easier to, I don't know, to distance yourself a little bit from the story. But those were, and that would have been a mistake if I'd gone too quickly into the story. I think it would have been a very different book, and one that I wouldn't have been proud to tell, you know.
Hello. When we are talking about travel here, the concept itself, what we are discussing, it's about traveling from one place to another. Now, today when I'm traveling, this is also a kind of traveling, because I take bus from my home and I reach my office, and every day I am experiencing new things around me. So I look at the bus conductor doing different things, and there is music being played. So can't that be also a travel story?
No, you're missing writing a book every day, actually.
Another thing, sorry, if I can, when you were talking about visiting Afghanistan, now because of financial constraints and job, because of we cannot get leave and all that. Now another thing is it's not very, like people would say, don't visit such countries because you are a female and all that. Now places like Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan, we have maybe very wrong conception about people out there, because I have interacted with a few people and they also, they are also very friendly. I have met Afghan guys and I felt that they are very safe. Like they protect you like anything. Like they have that safeguarding kind of attitude. So we are under the misconception of many things, have the fallacy till we meet. So what would you suggest? Like going and meeting?
I think I wouldn't recommend going to Afghanistan right at the moment, but it is, I mean, it's an incredibly beautiful country, and I think, and what you said is true. When I was researching, I thought I'd done all the reading I could and was well informed, and when I flew into Kabul, I was sort of shell-shocked, to give a war metaphor, and I felt like all the media conditioning I had about terrorism and everything just suddenly came in on me. But overwhelmingly, it wasn't true, you know. I mean, I'm not saying it does exist, all right? There's kidnappings in Kabul, I know that. I talked to people who were, I was lucky, exactly I was. But then I went to go to Bamyan, which is an extremely safe province. I probably saw Afghanistan as it probably was in the 60s and the 70s, you know, before the Russian invasion, before the country was occupied by different forces for 30 years. And they were overwhelmingly, I think, I remember a writer, a friend of mine, said to me, who travelled by boat from somewhere in England, a small mirror dinghy, all the way from England all the way to the Black Sea, you know. And he said, overwhelmingly, people are good. And everywhere you stop, someone says to you, in the next village, those people are really bad, they're robbers, you know. But overwhelmingly, he had a positive experience. He did get hijacked by pirates in the Black Sea, but apart from that, it was good.
You had been hijacked, you would have had a bestsellers.
True. My publisher's probably hoping for that.
You can stage that.
Quickly, my first novel was a book about some surfers, and one of them gets taken by a shark. And I kept thinking, taken by a shark, this would be amazing, right? But anyway, that didn't happen.
It's also a little poetic because you're the whole Australian part. Everyone's like, oh, Aussies and sharks. Just to add to that, when I was in a hostel in Johannesburg, we had a Nigerian dinner organized, and one of the locals went around and asked us each to talk about an experience that we had of unexpected kindness on our journey. And I thought for me that was so enlightening, just seeing that most people in the world are good. And you know, especially if you live in the West, a lot of people's conception of India is either Slumdog Millionaire or the Exotic Marigold Hotel. And it's so, I mean, yeah, and that's just two very slim experiences of what parts of India are, right? I mean, I'm sure you feel the same of where you're from, and I mean, I'm from Bangkok, Thailand. I was born and raised there, and it's so disheartening to see all media portrayal of Bangkok being like the hangover, or, you know, the full moon party, or just these very, very slim experiences of it. And so I think with travel, it really does open your eyes to that, and you see all different parts of the world and how they're completely misconstrued by a lot of the media.
Especially, she's herself a poster child, I'd say, you know, to your question, because South Africa is considered one of the most unsafe countries in the world, very, you know, a big crime rate and so on. So you want to talk? Take the plunge.
Yes, I mean, I would love to, if you have somewhere to, obviously do your research, and before the trip, I was so nervous, I tried to read every single thing I possibly could on South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Mozambique, all these countries. And then you go there, and when I was in Mozambique, the ATMs actually got shut down nationwide because Mozambique had failed to pay the company some money, and so none of the ATMs were working, and we were so afraid that civil unrest was going to explode. But instead, I had local Mozambicans who rarely had enough money to buy luxury goods, and they were saying, do you need money? Do you need money to pay for accommodations? You can stay with my mom, you could, all these things. And it was so heartwarming to see that.
Saying you have the disadvantage of being ugly.
Myself, Abhilal Gogol. My question is to Neil, sir. As you were here, you know India is diverse with different people and different religion, having largest democracy. As you were here, what will be your major experience to pin down in a book about India?
Okay. Well, you could read all about it in April because this one's coming out, okay? Like my new novel. So I did actually, the next novel takes place partly in the Sundarbans. It's about a young, half Indian, half Australian boy, and his grandmother arrives in the Sundarbans and unlocks these family secrets, and he comes to travel here to find out this mystery and trying to piece the two halves of his identity together. And this sort of fascinated me from 2 points. And I'll talk a bit about this tomorrow in my session, because I'm doing a session based primarily on this book. But my family were from India. My mum was from India, and her mother and father, my gran and granddad, and my great-gran was also, she was born in Kolkata. So I have a connection to India, and I travelled here a lot, and I love this place. I think it's, you guys have an amazing country. And I don't know, I write about it, I hope I've written about India with great affection. I actually got a cultural sensitivity reader to read over it. The publisher was very nervous, as they are at the moment, and rightly so, about writing into another culture. And she went through it, and she pointed out some very valid mistakes that I've made, you know. There's things that I just don't know. I'm a traveller in this country. But I have written about India, and it's a big part of my story too. So I hope when it comes out you can read it. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Major experience, sir.
Major experience in India?
Yeah.
Oh, so many to choose from. Of course, being in Guwahati. There are some incredible experiences. I went to, when I first came, it was in '94. And I landed in Bombay. Bombay, okay. I remember the dates don't line up. And I was just wide-eyed. I thought, whoa, what is this place, you know? And I spent 2 months travelling, and it was incredible. I found out about Ladakh while I was here. I was reading a book about travelling in Ladakh, and I got to go there. So I had to come back. So it was the wrong time of year. I was around, I think, anyway, it was snow. I couldn't get up through the passes. And I went to Ladakh in 1996. And I think it's amazing. Like, there are so many different places. India's not one country, I don't think. You know, it really isn't. It's so many different places with unique languages and people. And so, it'd be like picking your favourite child. So.
I actually wrote the first travel brochure to Ladakh when it opened, for tourism, but I wrote it without going there because it wasn't open. I don't remember the year. It would have been 74 or sometime like that. Yeah. And people, when they read it, they said, "Wow!" Because I talked about the smells and the, that's traveling in the mind,
We have time for perhaps one more question. Maybe two. There are two hands.
Well, I think like travel is more about like visual realization. Travel is more of like visual understanding, visual realization. And now you see, travel writings, these are challenged by the other media, like TV and all this. So, as a travel writers, what ingredients you think that relevant or popular amongst the reader nowadays? I think I put the question, got the question?
Shall we take the other question as well? Yes. Then anyone can answer.
My question is to Devapriya. Since you talked about revealing the self, isn't it? So travel is, while writing about others, we also reveal our own selves. So how conscious the travel writer becomes while revealing herself for himself? And does she or he engage himself or herself in some kind of maneuvering? Or is it a struggle for self-effacement? How do you deal with this?
It's a really good question, a really complex question. I think that's a struggle for any writer who's working with the I voice, right? When because a good travelogue is also part memoir, because the writer is also going back in time, going forward and so on. And I think it is the challenge of having to make both the unfamiliar familiar, with using yourself as the vessel, right? So on the surface of it, there are some things that writers use as tricks. So if you're self-deprecating in your humor, if you make fun of yourself, then you think that the reader warms up to you slightly, right? Instead of being, this very perfect, portly, pompous traveler, if you're getting into trouble, then your reader warms up to you a little bit and says, okay, oh God, I hope, they're okay. So that's one trick that I suppose one uses. But at a deeper level, of course, it's a great challenge to reveal honestly about your deepest worries and insecurities, right? Because travel brings them to the surface. That's what I thought. On our hurtling face journey, it brings a lot of buried things to the surface, and then you decide what to do with them.
I was going to add something to that the current book I'm writing is first person. It's technically fictional, but it's based on so many experience, because I think I was mentioning to someone I want plausible deniability. If anyone from Africa says, like, hey, was that based on me, that character that you wrote that thing? I'm like, no, they're just made up. What are you talking about? But also, writing in the first person is a challenge because you're trying to reveal these things about yourself or the character, the first person character, without, you're trying to show, not tell. You're not trying to say, I experienced this in the past, I had this issue, but you're trying to reveal it through their from different characters. So, for a really simple example is, if you want to describe how the character looks, the character can't say, oh, I look like this. They could say, I looked into the mirror and I saw this, or you can have another character comment on their appearance. And that's a way to kind of show that. That's a very simple one.
I think you also have to fabricate some scenes. I was traveling with Vikram Seth when he was writing Suitable Boy, and he would pull out his diary, and we were having just normal conversations in the car. He said, oh, that's very clever, and he would note it down, because when you sit down to invent a conversation, you often can't, because a real conversation is real. So that you could put into your travel. That's not even cheating because it's actually culturally right at least.
Writers are notorious thieves, right? So you sit down and have a conversation with a writer, they pull out a notebook, that's what they're doing. They're stealing your ideas and your ways of talking or the way you look, and it's, yeah. And friends, had a funny aside, a friend of mine supported me by giving me a job when I was writing my first novel. So in my second novel, he said, I want to be a character in your novel. I said, okay, I'll write you into my novel. So, but he's a guy, and he's quite a sort of macho guy, right? So I wrote him as the female love interest, called Beck. His name is Steve Beck, right? And so yeah, it was quite funny in the long run. So yeah, I think he didn't after that, no. He had beforehand. I made sure he'd done it already. So yeah, so you put, I think, I agree, you put all that stuff, you steal, like Vikram said, steals your stories. I probably steal your stories, you know, it's, yeah, you find them in everyone's novels, I think.
So there was one question about dialogue, and then there has been a question about familiarizing. Actually, all the table stories are familiarizing the unfamiliar. But again the question arises, each piece of poetry, a poem, a short story, a novel, every genre of literature actually familiarizes the reader with the unfamiliar. That way it is also a high kind of literature, just as poetry, just as short story. So if you take it seriously, you have to show your readers what they cannot easily see. And that way, the opposite also true. I have gone to USA twice or thrice I have gone. And you write a travel story about America. If it is a good travel story, I shall see here many things, even the places that I show. The way you have shown the places will be quite new to me. So, as a good piece of literature, travel story is always familiarizing the unfamiliar and unfamiliarizing the familiar. That's it.
Just to conclude, I think, your question, very interesting question. Given all these new visual mediums that produce places, why is travel writing still getting more and more popular? And I think the answer is very simple. There is a difference between tourist literature, where the reader engages with the object, and pictures are like that, generally TV is like that. And travel literature, where the reader is engaging with not only the object, but the writer. The writer is an important part of any travel literature. Whether it's this on the fascinating twin description, or whether it's an individual expressing ideas about a totally different country, whether it's analyzing things, or whether it's analyzing the person, because a lot of travel literature is also about self-discovery. So I think the reader has a double bonus in travel writing, the place and the person. And that's why I think it will continue forever.
For the same reason, I quite support it, but for the same reason, each travel writing is a part of his autobiography, of his own life story. Your travel story is only a part of your own life story. That's what perhaps they were saying.
Yeah, so now it just remains for me to thank this panel for excellent interactions, superb timing, and I hope the audience for interesting questions. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, all of you. We've again been enriched. I am just using this word because I am getting enriched more and more and more. And now I've realized what is the difference between a tourist and a traveler. All my travel experiences have gone down nothing but photographs for Facebook and Instagram. And I know why you stand here and I stand here. Thank you so much. The next session begins at 3:30 on the theme Today's Film Literature from Celebrity Memoirs